Deep Storage by Frankthompson. It was a simple request, 3 days ago. Can you take these down to the storage room in the basement? I know. Spooky basements. It couldn't be any more cliche, could it? It didn't really bother me at the time, though. See, I work as a janitor at a little college, and I'm used to being shuffled around from old building to old building, and have more than a few hours' experience in forgotten old basements. At least this building, an elderly structure in the biology department, had an elevator, and well-lit, clean white walls throughout. And so, around 2 p.m. in the afternoon, I started moving carts of boxes between the third-floor admin and the basement storage room. The storage room was a little peculiar, though. It was set up with rows upon rows of filing cabinets, whose drawers pulled out from the wall, wherein little boxes of old paperwork or disused lab equipment were stored. Little pieces of white paper were used to label the front of each drawer, and it seemed like I was part of a biannual archival process, placing box upon box into drawers that I then labeled Fall 2016-Exams, followed by a list of class numbers. To my left were the previous years and semesters, going all the way back to 1995. And to the right sat at least enough drawers to hold another 3 decades of exams and paperwork. I worked slowly and carefully, as the storage room had a cold, smooth tile floor, and had it not been for the cart I was pushing around, I certainly would have slipped and fell when I brought my first load. Around 3:30 p.m., I had put a sizable dent into the pile of boxes, and guessed I'd be able to finish before my shift was out at 4:30. But it had been 3 hours since my last break. I needed a cigarette. I got a cartload of boxes down to the storage room, then hopped up the flight of stairs, half a floor to the little service exit, and lit up a smoke. 10 minutes later, I opened the door to the storage room, and found my cart was empty. I was sure I'd brought more boxes down. When I went to check the drawers I'd just been filing, the last one I'd filled up was still full with the boxes I remembered stashing in them, and the next was empty. I took a minute and looked around. No dust on the floor, but there was a bit of buildup on the handles. I could clearly tell which ones I had opened, and one row over, I noticed a single handle clear of dust. I opened it, pulled out the drawer, and found a missing box. I removed it from the tray, set it down, and noticed yet another cleaned handle a few rows over. Cue another 10 or so boxes in different drawers, and I found myself near the far end of the wall of filing cabinets. The dust on the front of these was much thicker, and as I went to pull the next drawer out of the wall, I noticed a lock on the front. Well, rather, I noticed that where the other cabinets had empty spaces where a lock would go, these had locks in place. I reached to slide the mechanism and pull it open, and a cloud of dust filled the air as I slammed the track into the lock inside the cabinet. After a brief sneezing fit, 5 sneezes, I count them out of habit, I looked back at the obviously recently opened cabinet. The handle had been clean of dust, but the rest of the front was thick with it. There was even a thick layer covering the label holder on the front, concealing a faded piece of paper. I brushed it off and leaned close, trying to make out what might have been stored in here that needed to be locked up years ago. John Doe. Date, December 2nd, 1994, read the paper. I blinked and looked around. On this end of the room, all of the cabinets had locks. All of the cabinets had similar labels on their fronts, obscured by dust. I brushed off more of the nearby labels. All had names and dates listed. I tried a few more handles and found them locked. It was while I was checking a few of these handles that I was interrupted by a loud bang of the door opening. I jumped and quickly scanned the cabinets, before noticing my supervisor standing outside in the hallway. Hey, you didn't show up to clock out. Come on, you know you aren't authorized for any overtime. I brushed myself off and headed out for the day, hoping I wouldn't be tasked with finishing up here. Because apart from the locks, the cabinets I'd been using to stash boxes in were identical to the ones on the far side of the room. It wasn't a storage room at all, but an old morgue. And to make things even stranger, the cabinets on the far side of the room were noticeably cold still, as if whatever had been used to keep bodies fresh when this place was built was still on and in use. Anyway, I thought I'd dodged going back down there, having been sent to other buildings the rest of the week. Today, though, I'm being sent back over to finish moving boxes and tie up in there. I'm going to bring some tools and see if I can pop open any of the far cabinets. Particularly that John Doe one that I'm sure had been opened.